Good day everyone, I am Wendelin Paday with my group, which is the Group 5, and we're about to report the last chapter, which is the last homecoming and trial. In 1896 was Rizal's homecoming. It was the last of his life. Rizal already knew it was his saddest return to his beloved native land. He knew he was facing this supreme test, which might mean the sacrifice of his life. But he wasn't afraid. As a matter of fact, he welcomed it gladly. He desired to miss his enemies and to offer himself a sacrificial victim to their sadistic lust and unholy design, for he knew that his blood would water the seed of the Filipino freedom. The trial that was held shortly after his homecoming was one of history, home, home carries of justice. His enemies now howled like mad dogs for his blood, and they gathered without benefit of genuine justice. On October 6, 1896, Tuesday, was the day since Rizal left Barcelona. Day by day, Rizal conscientiously recorded the event of in his diary. He was given a good cabin in the second class, and although strictly guarded, he was courteously treated by the army officer. The officer on duty, he wrote in his diary, seems amiable, defined, and polite, consistent with the seriousness of his duty. On October 8, a friendly officer told Rizal that the Madrid newspapers were full of stories about the bloody revolution in the Philippines and were blaming him for it. Realizing the adverse and not a just public opinion, he thanked God for giving him the chance to return in order to confront his slanders and to vindicate his name. He wrote his diary on the same date, on October 8. Rizal said, I believe that what God is doing to me is a blessing, allowing me to go back to the Philippines in order to be able to destroy such accusation, because either they do me justice and recognize my innocence, and then I will believe they rehabilitate, or they sentence me to death and thereby. Before the eyes of society, I atone for my supposed crime. Society will forgive for Society will forgive me, and later, without any doubt, justice will be done me, and I will be one more martyr. At my at any rate, instead of my dying abroad or any manjagua or in jungle of Cuba, I'll die in my own country. I believe that what is happening is the best that it can happen to me. Always let God will be done. I feel more calm with regard to my future. I feel that peace has descended upon me. Thank God. Thou art my hope and my consolation. Let your will be done. I am ready to obey it. Either I will be condemned or absolved. I am happy and ready. That was Rizal wrote in his diary.
Ford, an English lawyer in Singapore, attempted to rescue the result from the Spanish steamer Colón when it reached Singapore. However, Chief Justice Lionel Cox denied the writ, arguing that the ship was carrying Spanish troops to the Philippines, which was beyond Singapore's jurisdiction under international law. So, Hagford is an English lawyer in Singapore which tried to rescue herself from the Spanish steamer Colon. However, Chief Justice General Cox denied the writ, stating that the ship was transporting Spanish troops to the Philippines. Cox also argued that, according to the international law, Singapore lacked jurisdiction over matters involving the movement of military forces between sovereign nations. Therefore, the attempt to rescue the Rizal was denied based on jurisdictional limitations. On November 3, the colony arrived in Manila, bringing reinforcements and military supplies. Despite the joy of the Spanish community, Rizal was quietly transferred under Spanish rule. So, on November 3, a shipment reached Manila bringing reinforcement and military supplies, bringing joy to the Spanish community. Meanwhile, in a less publicized move, Jose Rizal was discreetly transferred under Spanish control. This suggests a deliberate and possibly secretive decision regarding Rizal's situations within the context of broader events in Manila. Authorities sought evidence against Rizal, while other Filipino patriots were tortured. Rizal, despite suffering, never signed damaging statements incriminating his younger brother. His Asian spirit remained unbroken despite his body being shattered. During this period, authorities were attempting to gather evidence against Jose Rizal, and other Filipino patriots faced torture. Despite enduring suffering himself, Rizal showed remarkable resilience. Notably, he refused to sign statements that could incriminate his younger brother, demonstrating a strong sense of loyalty and dedication to his family. Rizal's unbroken spirit, despite the physical toll on his body, reflects his unwavering commitment to his principles and resilience in the face of adversity. On November 20, Rizal began a 5-day preliminary investigation before Judge Advocate Colonel Francisco Olive, where he was informed of charges but not allowed to confront testimonies. On November 20, Rizal underwent a 5-day preliminary investigation presided over by Judge Advocate Colonel Francisco Olive. During this process, Rizal was informed about the charges against him. However, he was not permitted to confront or challenge the testimonies presented against him. This lack of opportunity to directly address or question the evidence could be seen as a limitation in the fairness of the investigative proceedings, potentially impacting Rizal's ability to defend himself effectively. Two kinds of evidence were presented against Rizal, namely documentary and testimonial. The documentary evidence consisted of 15 exhibits as follows. First, a letter of Antonio Luna to Mariano Ponce, dated Madrid, October 16, 1888, showing Rizal's connection with the Filipino Reform Campaign in Spain. So, Antonio Luna's letter to Mariano Ponce, dated on October 16, 1888, reveals Rizal's involvement in the Filipino Reform Campaign in Spain, establishing a connection to nationalist activities. Second, a letter of Rizal to his family dated Madrid, August 20, 1890, stating that the deportations are good for they will encourage the people to hate tyranny. So, in Rizal's letter to his family dated on August 20, 1890, expressed approval of deportations as a means to encourage people to resist tyranny, potentially indicating Rizal's support for anti-colonial sentiments. Third, a letter from Marcelo H. del Pilar to Diodato Arellano, dated Madrid, January 7, 1889, implicating Rizal in the propaganda campaign in Spain. So, Marcelo H. del Pilar letters to Diodato Arellano implicates Rizal in the propaganda campaign in Spain, suggesting Rizal's active participations in nationalist movements. Fourth, a poem entitled Kundiman, allegedly written by Rizal in Manila on September 12, 1891. This poem is as follows. So, the poem Kundiman, allegedly written by Rizal in Manila on September 12, 1891, serves serves as creative evidence, potentially reflecting results, sentiments, or truths through thoughts during that time, contributing to the man. In the Orient Beautiful, where the sun is born in a land of beauty, full of enchantments, but bound in chains. Where the despot reigns, the Lord dearest to me. Ah, that is my country. She is a slave oppressed, groaning in the tyrant's grips. Lucky shall he be who can give her liberty. So, the poem Kundiman reflects a deep sense of patriotism and a desire of freedom. It describes an oriental land of beauty born under the sun, but one that is enchained and oppressed by a despot. The poet expresses a strong emotional connection to this country, referring to it as my country. The vivid imagery suggests a contrast between the enchanting beauty of the land and the harsh reality of being bound in chains under a tyrant's rule. The mention of the country being a slave oppressed and groaning in the tyrant's grips conveys a sense of anguish and suffering endured by the people. The poet expresses a yearning for liberty, emphasizing the aspirations for freedom from oppression. The closing line suggests that those who can contribute to liberating the country would be considered fortunate. Overall, Kundiman portrays a poignant plea for national liberation and the longing for free and unshackled homeland. So, fifth, a letter of Carlos um, Oliver to an unidentified person dated Barcelona, September 18, 1891, describing Rizal as the man to free the Philippines from Spanish oppression. So, the letter of Carlos Oliver to an unidentified person dated September 18, 1891, describes Rizal as the individual capable of liberating the Philippines from Spanish oppression. These documents serve as testimonial evidence, highlighting perceptions of Rizal as a figure with the potential to lead the country to freedom. The content suggests that Rizal was seen as a symbol of resistance against Spanish rule, emphasizing his significance in the quest for Philippine independence. A Masonic document dated Manila, February 9, 1892, honoring Rizal for his patriotic services. The Masonic document dated Manila, February 9, 1892, honoring Rizal for his patriotic services likely signifies recognition um, within the Masonic community for Rizal's dedication to the country. Masonic lodges were often associated with revolutionary sentiments during that period, and this document suggests that Rizal was acknowledged and appreciated for his patriotic efforts in the Philippines. 7. A letter signed Di Masalang results pseudonym to ten Los Juan Zoloy, tas pseudonym, dated Hong Kong, May 24, 1892, stating that he was preparing a safe refuge for Filipino who may be persecuted by Spanish authorities. Okay. 30. The letter signed by the Masalang results pseudonym to Tenlos Huadziletas pseudonym, dated Hong Kong's May 24, 1892, reveals results proactive stance in providing a safe refuge for Filipinos facing persecution by Spanish authorities. This indicates a strategic and protective mindset possibly aimed at assisting compatriots seeking shelter during times of political unrest.
The testimonial evidence consisted of the oral testimonies of Martin Constantino, Aguido del Rosario, Jose Reyes, Moises Salvador, Jose Dizon, Domingo Franco, Diodato Aureliano, Ambrosio Salvador, Pedro Serrano Lactao, Dr. Pio Valenzuela, Antonio Salazar, Francisco Quezon, Timoteo Paez. On November 26, after the preliminary investigation, Colonel Olive transmitted the records of the case to Governor General Ramon Blanco, and the latter appointed Captain Rafael Dominguez as special judge, advocate to institution cons- corresponding action against Rizal. Rizal chose his defender. The only right given to Rizal by the Spanish authorities was to choose his defense counsel, and even this was highly restricted, for he had to choose only from a list submitted to him. On December 8th, feast day of the Immaculate Conception, a list of 101st and 2nd lieutenant and the Spanish army was presented to Rizal. He looked over the list. One name struck his fancy. It was Don Luis Taveldel de Andrade, first lieutenant of the artillery. The name was familiar to him, so that he can choose to lieutenant to be his defender in court. Lieutenant Luis Tavial del Andrade proved to the brother of Lieutenant Jose Tavial de Andrade Rizal's bodyguard in the Calamba in 1887 upon being notified by the authorities that he was chosen to defend the accused. He gladly accepted the task. He had previously heard from his older brother Jose Tavial de Andrade about Dr. Rizal of Calamba.
Dominguez forwarded the papers of Rizal case to Malacanang Palace on December 13, and the same day with the General Camilo G. de Fulabia, with the help of the powerful Dominican friars, became Governor General of the Philippines, succeeding General Blanco. The withdrawal of Blanco from the gubernatorial office sealed Rizal's fate. So si General Blanco is dili gid siya motuo nga si Rizal is nag-traidor gid siya sa Espanya. Rizal Salas Christmas. December 25, 1896 was Christmas. Joyously celebrated the birthday of Christ, who was born to redeem mankind and to bring peace and brotherhood to all men on earth.
Good day, sir. I'm Anjuno Rice. If it were true that there were some better comments in Rizal's letter, it was because they were written in 1890, when his family was being persecuted, being disposed of their own houses, warehouse, land, and etc. And his brother and all his brother-in-law were deported. His life in the Pitan been exemplary as the politico-military commands and missionary press could attest. It was not true that the revolution was inspired by his one speech at the house of Dorota Ongjungwana, as alleged by witnesses whom he would like to confront his friends. No opposition, armed rebellion. Why did he Kalipo? It was not true that the revolution was inspired by his one speech at the house of Doroteo Oikwangko, as alleged by witness whom he would like to confront his friends, knew his opposition to armed rebellion. Why did the Katipunan send an emissary to the Pitta, who had unknown to him because those who knew him were aware that he would never sanction any violent movement. The military court prejudiced as it was remained indifferent to Rizal pleading. The president, Lieutenant Torgoris Arjuana, considered the trial over and ordered the half cleared. After a short deliberation, the military court unanimously voted for sentence of death. On the same day, December 26, the court decision was submitted to Governor General Pulaheba. Immediately, Pulaheba sought the opinion of Judge Advocate General Nicolas de la Peña on the court decision. The latter affirmed the death verdict. Pulaheba signed Rizal execution on December 28. Pulaheba signs Rizal execution on December 28. Pulaheba approved the decision of the court martial and ordered Rizal to be shot at 7 o'clock in the morning. On December 30 at Pagumbayan Field, Luneta, his decree on this matter runs as follows. In Manila, December 28, 1896, In Manila, December 28, 1896, conformably to the foregoing opinion, I approve the sentence declared by the court of martial in the present case, by virtue of which the death penalty is imposed on the accused Jose Rizal Mercado, which shall be executed by shooting him at 7 o'clock in the morning, on the 30th of this month, in the field of Bagumbayan. For compliance and the rest that may correspond, let this be returned to the Judge Advocate, Captain Don Rafael Dominguez, for signing the fatal document ordering the execution of Dr. Jose Rizal. Governor General Pulaheba won the eternal odium of the Filipino people. He and other Spanish officials who were responsible for the death of Rizal will evermore remain as obnoxious villain in the Philippine history.
In Rizal's letters, it was because they were written in 1990. His family was being persecuted, being disposed, others have lands and etc. And his father and all his brothers-in-law were deported.